I know a lot of the S&P 500 rolled over today, but it's gotten to the point where we're ignoring great news from recession-proof companies that will do just fine, even if COVID's about to make a horrific fall comeback. Take Eli Lilly. It's the big pharma titan with a stock that roared higher in June on some terrific breast cancer data. A couple of weeks later, the stock surged to a new all-time high. But since then, Lilly's stock has been weak, even when it reported an excellent quarter in late July, even when it reported all sorts of promising data earlier this month on their COVID-19 treatment, not to mention cardiology, migraine, cancer drugs. Today was maybe the worst example of all. Last night, Lilly reported more thorough data on the breast cancer drug everyone got excited about in June. That's Verzenio. Turns out when you take this thing in combination with the current standard of care, it reduces the risk of recurrence by a staggering 25% for people with certain high-risk types of breast cancer. And that is huge. On any other day, I think it might have sent the stock flying. Instead, Lilly dropped nearly 2% today to $151. You know what? I think that is strange, and I think it's temporary. Don't take it from me, though. Let's check in with Dave Ricks. He's the chairman and CEO of Eli Lilly. Get a better sense of these recent developments, including the latest incredible breast cancer data. Mr. Ricks, welcome back to Mad Money.
Great to be with you, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so, Dave, I think a lot of people may say, well, hold it, just a 25% improvement. I mean, what does that mean? There's another company, Pfizer. They've got a drug in there, too. Can you please explain to people how monumental a 25% save rate really is here?
Well, it's obviously significant. This study we read out yesterday enrolled patients who have what's called the hormone receptor positive but HER2 negative breast cancer, a very common form of breast cancer. They were treated by their physicians, and then we're trying to prevent the cancer from coming back. And in this study, when you added Verzenio to the standard of care, reduced it 25% chance of your cancer coming back. This is the only improvement we've seen in almost 20 years on the background standard of care. And, of course, a 1 in 4 chance that your cancer won't return is really meaningful. And this was studied primarily in a high-risk patient population who are particularly concerned about their cancer returning. So great news for breast cancer patients. There is no other drug in this class approved in this indication, and we'll be submitting to the FDA in the second half of this year.
Well, while we are on the subject of your oncological franchise, I mean, it just seems to get better and better. Recent approval, non-small cell lung cancer. This is an amazing franchise that you have built in really rather short period of time. Tell us about the other successes.
Yeah, well, we've been working hard over the last 3 years to really invest in the oncology business. It's an area where the science is really breaking, new targets are emerging, and we all know, for those that have been touched by cancer, loved ones, family members, how devastating the disease can be. And we think investing here makes good sense. We acquired a company last winter, Loxo Oncology. We've incorporated their great minds into our company and are really accelerating the early-stage pipeline. From that Loxo acquisition came a drug called Retevmo, which was just approved this spring and launched, first drug we launched during a pandemic. It's indicated, as you mentioned, for several types of cancer, including lung cancer, if you have what's called as a RET mutation, also indicated in certain types of thyroid cancer. It's a targeted agent, so you don't take background chemo with it, and it's got a very high response rate, a very exciting development for patients who have that RET mutation. More things coming in the early pipeline, and we'll be talking about this more.
Remember when he says no chemo, that means that it's targeted. It's not knocking you flat and not able to lead your life, and which is rather remarkable. Now, Dave, you are doing some things with neutralizing antibodies and COVID-19 that David Faber and I were talking about this morning may be more important than the vaccine, because you can, it's a wide range of even potential uses of treatment, including prevention. And I think we spend too much time talking about vaccine and not enough time talking about your neutralizing antibody franchise.
Well, we announced some data last week. It was early data from an interim look at a phase 2 study, but we believed it was proof of concept that neutralizing antibodies can have a key role, as you're mentioning, in both controlling the disease in patients who suffer from COVID and, frankly, helping us get out of this situation we're in with the pandemic. This drug works by directly targeting the virus. We believe it's the first proof of concept data for any drug directly designed to arrest COVID. We started this program, and Jim, you'll appreciate this, in March of this year. And just 6 months later, we had clinical data that demonstrate proof of concept. That's incredible speed. We've been moving, and our scientists And frankly, the volunteers in the study deserve a huge amount of credit. We're also looking at combinations of two of these things, and more data will be coming over the fall, and we hope that this will turn into a therapy that can be useful in one of three settings. This one was in patients who were newly diagnosed with COVID, and we noted we had a number of high-risk people in that study, and it reduced hospitalizations by 72%, which is obviously a key metric. We're also studying this in patients already in the hospital, as well as patients in nursing homes, as you're mentioning, where if one of your co-residents is infected, we treat the other residents and prevent the spread of the disease. That's another use for these neutralizing antibodies called passive immunization. It works hand in hand with vaccination. We need vaccines too, but this is an important news last week with the neutralizing antibodies.
Can you give us a peek of the nursing home study? Because this would be so important. We lost so many people in the New York, New Jersey area because of nursing homes.
Exactly. I think the data in the U.S. is roughly 40% of all deaths have been patients in nursing homes. It is a huge problem. And here you have people close together who are, we know, at the highest risk, age and other underlying conditions. So stopping outbreaks in these homes has taken extraordinary measures in terms of infection control. And humans are humans, and we make mistakes sometimes. And when those mistakes happen, it has dire consequences. So what we've done, and the study is fascinating, Jim, we actually equipped RVs made here in Indiana as mobile research units. And so when we learn of a outbreak in a home, we send the RV, we run a clinical study, not in a hospital or a doctor's office, but on the site of the nursing home, bringing the study to residents. And we're then watching to see if treatment with this antibody or placebo can really reduce the spread of infection in that home. And as you pointed out, it's such an important place to study a medicine like this.
Well, it's monumental. And one other thing, I know you're a competitor with Amgen, particularly on migraine, but here you are working with them in order to be able to manufacture enough antibodies. So this is, again, like you started in March, you're doing things differently to beat this illness.
Speed is a hallmark of the industry's response to COVID-19, and I don't think most everyday listeners understand. I mean, we developed this antibody and got to proof of concept in 6 months. Usually that's more than 6 years. And as you're pointing out, cooperation is another hallmark, really teaming up across the industry to share our data. And one of the reasons we published this data last week was so our competitors who are also developing neutralizing antibodies can learn from that study and adapt their own efforts. So we all get more of these things sooner. And then manufacturing, which is a huge problem. One drawback of neutralizing antibodies, well, they tend to be pretty safe and they have good effects. They're very hard to make. And so Amgen, like Lilly, is a biotechnology powerhouse, and we're proud to partner with them to bring more volume to the fight so that more people around the world could benefit from a therapy like the one we announced preliminary data on.
Well, David, I want to thank you for everything you're doing. Lilly's a remarkable company. It's so hard to have these kinds of successes. That's David Ricks, Chairman and CEO of Eli Lilly. Great to talk to you, sir.
You too, Jim.
Look, these stocks, right now they're throwing these stocks away. That's when you buy them, because it's not going to stay that way. Stick with Cramer.
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on Twitter. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadTweets. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.